afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. Great to see you all again. Haven't seen most of you since December, so it's great to be back. Today was officially the signing day. This year is a lot different with the early signing period. In all, we've signed 17 prospects. 16 of those signed back in December. The goal each year is to get bigger, stronger, faster. We feel like we've done that. The goal from day one and in following our tradition has always been to make sure we do a great job in the state of Michigan. I myself am a product of Michigan high school football. I take a lot of pride in that. I think we've got great coaches in the state, and I think we've got great athletes in the state. And traditionally, we've always won with players from the state of Michigan. So the class breaks down, from a position standpoint. We signed 3 defensive backs, 3 defensive ends, 1 defensive tackle, 2 players that were projected to play linebacker, a quarterback. I'm going to pause there. That position is so important. We feel like, that we need to sign 1 in every class. I think the ideal number on scholarship would always be somewhere between 4 and 5. Next fall will be the first time since I've been here where we'll go into the fall season with 4 quarterbacks on scholarship. We signed 1 running back, tight end, 2 wide receivers, 2 offensive linemen, and 1 player that we're putting into a broad athlete category. 7 of the signees are from here in state. 10 of them come from 6-hour radius. The 7 Michigan players, and then 2 from Illinois and 1 from the state of Indiana. We kind of expanded our footprint a little bit more this year. Dipped down into Florida and signed 2 more players, or actually 3 more. Montre Braswell, Romello Tarver, and Carlton Cleofat. 2 players from Georgia and 2 from the state of New Jersey, with Chris Ostrowski coming on as offensive coordinator. He's a Jersey guy, and I didn't realize how many Jersey coaches I still knew until Chris went down there this past spring, but we were able to get 2 good players out of New Jersey. 3 of the players are, 3 of our signees had fathers who played here, Tyden Ferris, Nevin Symington, and C.J. Gildersleeve, and 1 has a brother that's currently on the team. That would be Braden Childress, the brother of Brandon Childress. 15 of the 17 were team captains, and 14 of the 17 were multi-sport athletes. Again, we wanted to get bigger, stronger, faster. 4 of our signings are 6'4" or taller. 2 of the 2 outside receivers both stand 6'2" or taller, and we had 3 of the members of the signees all ran 11.2 or faster in 100 meters. So again, when we look at a class, when we look at an individual, we got to answer one question: is this do we see this player being as good as or better than what we currently have? Are they going to make us better? Obviously, academics come into play. We want to recruit good students, but probably the most important thing is the character of the individuals, the quality of people that we want to bring on campus and that we want to introduce as members of our football team. And, that is maybe one of the more difficult things to evaluate. That takes time. You got to get to know the person. You have to learn a little bit more about their background. For me, probably the most exciting part of the whole process is when I do get to go out on the road, which the NCAA limits us, or limits the head coaches in terms of our opportunities to get out. But my favorite part of the whole process is actually the home visit. When I get into the home and I see, where the kid comes from, and learn a little bit, get a little bit deeper information about him. At this time, I'm going to go through the signing class. I'll go through them alphabetically. The first one is Montre Braswell. He's from Avon Park High School in Florida. That's the Tampa area. He's a 5'11", 187-pound defensive back. He played for Coach Wade Jackson down there. Montre was one of the more heavily recruited. He had offers from Wisconsin, Memphis, Kentucky, Iowa State, Indiana, FAU, and others. He was Offensive Player of the Year at running back there. He was a second-team All-State player out of Florida. He was a team captain. His team finished the season with a 10-2 record. He's also a track athlete. He was MVP of his track team as a junior. Again, versatile athlete. We're projecting him as a defensive back. Next player is Tico Brown. Tico is from down the road here in Indiana, Fort Wayne area, Homestead High School. At 6'2", 276 pounds. You know, Tico was a kid that we started early on, about this time last year, came up to a junior day, came back up and visited for for spring practice. Was here for a game in the fall. He held offers from Ohio, Ball State, and Eastern, so it was mainly MAC competition. 3-year varsity player, holds his career sack record at 21.5 sacks. He's a 2-time first-team all-conference player and an all-state player as a senior. Again, we see him playing an inside defensive tackle position for us. Braden Childress, you get on 20, go west, and you run into Big Rapids. He's over at Big Rapids High School. He's a brother of Brandon Childress. Braden's a 6'3", 210-pound athlete. We could see him really either staying as a wide receiver or potentially growing into a tight end, or could see him also potentially on the defensive side of ball. Got a chance to watch him play high school basketball, and there's no question that he is an outstanding athlete. He's a 2-year captain, 3-time all-conference player in football, and a 2-time all-conference player in basketball as well, and will probably be a 3-time once the season ends up. But we're excited about him, his future, and really his versatility as a football player. He's an outstanding student and young man as well. Jonathan Clark's the next player. He comes from Hackensack High School in New Jersey. John's a running back at 5'10", 185 pounds. Played high school was coached by Benji Wilberly down there in New Jersey. Had offers from Marshall and Kent State. He was also captain in track as well as football. He accounted for about 1,600 yards in his varsity career. He also serves as a team's returner. He's an all-purpose 3-down back, plays physical, strong, tough, and has very good burst north and south. He's an excellent all-around player for us. Next player is Carlton Cleofat. He's at Blanche Ely High School in Florida, South Florida area. Played for Calvin Davis down there, had offers from Toledo, FAU, and then 5 other schools. He's a team captain, and a 2-time MVP. We see him playing linebacker for us. He's an athletic player who can really run and cover. He's a track athlete as well. He recorded over 250 tackles, 26 sacks, 10 forced fumbles, and 5 fumble recoveries in his high school career. Very explosive athlete who can play in space and cover a lot of ground. We're really excited to be able to introduce Carlton Cleofat and his family to our Chippewa family. Nolan Ike's the next player out of the Batavia High School in Chicago, offensive lineman. We see him being an offensive tackle for us. Nolan's stands 6'6", 260 pounds. Another player who we really started early on in the process with, junior day to summer camp to here for a game in the fall, spring practice. He had offers from most of the MAC schools, Ball State, Bowling Green, Eastern Michigan, and is an outstanding student and had several Ivy League offers as well. He's an academic all-state. He's first-team all-conference. He won the leadership award on his team for leadership and character, and he led his team to a 13-1 record. And Illinois Class 7A state championship as a senior. Very excited about him joining that offensive line. Tyden Ferris is the next player. Tyden's out of Delton Kellogg High School here in Michigan. Offensive lineman, currently at 6'4", 255 pounds. Played for Ryan Bates there. Committed to us very early in the process, actually committed to us as a sophomore. He was offered by Cornell and received interest from Notre Dame, Michigan State, but really shut everything down. You know, he's another legacy. His dad, Raleigh Ferris, lettered here from 95 to 97 and was also a former MVP here for the Chippewas in 1997. Like his dad, he's also an outstanding wrestler. He participates in wrestling and track and field. He's a team captain, first team All-State, and he's just got a very bright future here. He's a tough, tough as nails kid, strong, and he's not going to stop at 255. I can promise you that. He's going to be a big man when he gets finished growing. And just watching him develop over the last 2 years has been a pretty cool thing. Corey Gildersleeve out of Saline High School, linebacker, 6'2", 220 pounds. Played for Joe Palca there. Had offers from Ball State, Buffalo, and Cornell. Dad, Corey Gildersleeve, also played here from 93 to 95, and another son of an MVP. His dad was MVP of the 1995 team. CJ was a team captain. His team went 29-4 over 3 years of varsity football, and he was voted MVP after 2017. He's a three-time All-Conference player and honorable mention All-State. Also participates in track and field. We project him at the Mike linebacker, and again, we feel like we've got a good one in Corey. Randall Harris is the next player out of Walled Lake Western High School. Defensive back, 6 foot, 182 pounder. Played for Coach Zadebski there at Walled Lake Western. Had offers from Air Force with interest from West Virginia and Iowa State. We feel like this player kind of flew under the radar a little bit in the recruiting process after sitting out his junior year due to a high school transfer rule. We had him up for one of our one-day camps and were able to evaluate him there. Really liked him. He got its chance in his senior year, week 1, to match up one-on-one in a game against two wide receivers that are both committed to Wisconsin, and shut those guys down. So we felt with the combination of what we saw out of him in camp and then the performance that he put in early in his senior year, that he was somebody that we wanted to make a Chippewa, and so we offered him and he committed. And he competes in basketball and track and field as well, and we're excited about having Randall Harris play in our secondary in the upcoming years. Laquan Johnson is the next player, again a Michigan product out of Burton Bendel High School here in Michigan. We see Laquan as a defensive end for us. He's currently at 6'3", 230-pound player. Also, another guy that I got to see play basketball. We had him in camp. First saw him down at Wayne State, and then came up to another one-day camp here. We really liked his quickness, his twitchiness, and his length. We feel like he's, when he fills out, he's going to grow into a very good pass rushing defensive end for us. Next up is Kobe Lewis. Kobe comes from America's High School down in Georgia. We're projecting him as a defensive back, safety primarily. He measures in at 5'10", 185 pounds. Played for Coach Soliday down there. He had an offer from Georgia State. He's a first-team All-State player down there. He's a team captain who also runs track and plays basketball. He led his team to a 9-3 record. They lost in I believe, the semifinals of the Georgia State playoffs. Primary position in high school was as a running back, and he rushed for 1,700 yards as a senior and had 204 yards in receptions and 25 touchdowns. So he's an explosive, dynamic athlete, got very good burst and can bend, and he's capable of returning kicks as well. We see Kobe as a player that could come in and compete for playing time early in his career, and we're excited to have him join us. Keontae Nixon is the next player out of Lake Park High School in Illinois. He is a 6'3", 205-pound wide receiver. Played his high school football for Coach Chris Roll. He had offers from Southern and Western Illinois. 24/7 had him ranked as the 27th best player in the state of Illinois and one of the top 150 players in the country at his position. He also excels at running track. He was named All-Area honorable mention as a senior. He's a big body, physical wide receiver that has very good burst and change of direction, and is an excellent student as well. We're excited about Keontae. George Pearson is our next signee out of Mater Dei High School in New Jersey. George is a quarterback, measures in at 6'1", 210 pounds. Played his high school football for Coach Dino Mangiero. Had legitimate offers from Boston College, Purdue, and Temple. The quarterback recruiting thing's a lot different than a lot of the other positions because most schools like ourselves are only going to take one, and it's really interesting to see how that deal really layers out. We've benefited, I think, from Coach Ostrowski's connections down in New Jersey. This is a kid that started every game since he was a freshman in high school, has won 2 state championships as a starting quarterback, and I think only lost 3 games in his entire high school career. He's got natural arm talent. He can run. Just really exciting, very personable kid to be around. I would say, his family, his dad's a character. I'm really looking forward to seeing him on game days whenever he can make it up. But just a really exciting young man to be around, and we're really happy that George is going to join us, and excited about his future here. Next up is Tyrone Scott, another player out of Georgia, to Jenkins High School in Georgia, wide receiver, 6'3", 187 pounds. If you want to see something unique, go on YouTube and watch his dunk highlights. Got a chance to watch him play basketball live, and I thought it was the Harlem Globetrotters playing against the team that they practice. And he had 3 dunks in that game, and every week he's sending me highlight tapes, texting me that dunks that he's had. So he's just unbelievable athlete. Had Boston College, Cincinnati, Georgia Southern, App State, Ball State, and probably about 8 other offers. He's a team captain. I already mentioned he plays and excels in basketball. He's going to be a great addition to our wide receiver room. Interesting story. I mean, he committed early, before he ever came up here. I think his family, and it makes sense, said, "What are you doing? We don't know these people." So decommitted. We stayed with him through the process, continued to talk to him, and he actually took his official visit during the season up here with his parents. Again, was able to get down and see him again in December during the contact period, and fortunately for us, it worked out where he decided to come back to what his original feeling was, and that CMU was the best place for him, and we're excited that he chose us. So really happy Tyrone Scott's with us. Next player is Nevin Symington, Saginaw High School, defensive end, 6'4", 228-pound defensive end. Played high school football for his dad, Nate Simonton Sr. Dad earned 3 letters here, so again, he's another legacy. I think Nevin was actually spent a good portion of his young life right here on campus. Had offers from Air Force and interest from Michigan State, Cornell, and some other Ivy League schools, I think Cornell and Columbia. But, you know, as he said it, you know, he's a Chippewa through and through. He's got maroon and gold in his blood, and we're really happy he's going to join us. He's a first-team All-State and All-Conference selection really throughout his high school career. He's a versatile player. He's played a lot of different things. He's played linebacker, defensive end, tight end, but we really see him growing into a edge rush defensive end for us. He's a very twitchy athlete who can redirect and bend and just has really good football instincts. Next up is Romello Tarver from Oxbridge Academy in Florida. Another South Florida native. He's a 6'5", 245-pound defensive lineman. Played for Coach Kent down there at Oxbridge. Had offers from Appalachian State, East Carolina, and Marshall. He was a team captain as a senior. His team finished with an 11-2 record and lost in the state championship game. First team all-conference, 2016 and 17. He had 10 sacks and 45 tackles for a loss during his career. As an offensive lineman, he posted 205 career pancake blocks. He's going to be a great addition to our program. He'll come in as a defensive lineman, and you know, we expect him to play defensive line, but I could tell you that he also has the size that if we need him on the offensive side, he could easily make that transition. It's easy to project this kid playing in a number of spots for us, and another great family that we're very happy to add to our family. Next up is Joel Wilson out of Petoskey High School here in Michigan. You know, Joel is a 6'4", currently 210-pound tight end prospect. He's a kid that played out of position in high school. He played at quarterback. Again, we had the good fortune of having him in one of our one-day camps, and really towards the end of the day, Sharon Moore, our tight end coach, you know, said, come on over here and run some routes, you know, in one-on-one. And it was probably the best investment the kid or the family ever made was the $50 fee to send him to camp, because that's really what sold us on him. He's a great kid. Again, I got a chance to watch him play basketball last week. Tremendous environment up there at Petoskey. I mean, unbelievable. Probably one of the best that I've had the privilege of being around. Extremely excited to add this kid to our roster. I think he's a smart, tough, athletic kid, and he's going to find his way on the field in some shape or form or another. He's an excellent athlete, and we're really glad to have him. That's it for the class. I'm going to open it up for questions. Thanks for sitting through that. I know it can get a little bit redundant and it runs together. But I'm happy to answer any questions at this time about the class or anything else with the program.
John, you've been through now, this is the first year with the early signing period in December. Obviously, the vast majority of these guys signed on today. You added Joel Wilson to the mix. What are your thoughts on with them having gone to the early signing period now that you've been through it 1 year?
I think it becomes really a more relevant question a year from now when you go through the entire process. I think it's good for us. You know, as you mentioned, we were able to get most of our guys signed, you know, in the early part, you know, in December, which really made January for us, you know, like spring recruiting. You know, the month of January, we're trying to get ahead on in the 2019s and the 2020s. So we're junior recruiting during the month of January. The part that we kind of still have to wait and see is really, with official visits starting in April. We've got to kind of, we've had a lot of discussions as a staff in terms of how we're going to use those, how many we're going to use. A lot of it, quite frankly, is going to be reactionary. I mean, it depends on what your competition does. I do have concerns about it. My concerns primarily are budgetary. What will it do? I'd say right now, if we, the way we currently operate under the old system, by the time we get to December and we're bringing kids in December, January for official visits, they're pretty much locked in. If we bring 10 kids up for visits, 8 of them are probably committed before they take their official visit. I think that dynamic's going to change a little bit. So, again, being fiscally responsible is at all times it's important, to us here, and it's important to me because I do have a budget, and I don't want to stay within that budget. So my concerns really moving forward really is how it's going to impact our spending, in recruiting. How many can you afford to fly up, if you don't know for sure if you're going to get them. But on the flip side of it is, if you don't bring them on campus and your competition does, you're certainly not going to get them. So I think the jury's still out. I'd say overall positive, but still evaluating, and I think a better, clear picture a year from now.
What do you rank this class in terms of, or compared to like years before, previous recruiting classes?
I think this is the 3rd class that we've signed. Numbers wise, it's right there. I think that I think it's a really, really good class. I think they've all been really good. I think, the proof is when, once they're here and once they start to play. They're all very, they're all obviously worthy of being here, of the opportunities that they have. But, it's like I tell them, once you walk in the door, anything and everything you did in high school doesn't matter anymore. It's you're going to be evaluated based on what you do moving forward, and that's really in all areas, on and off the field. And that's our job as coaches, is to develop that potential. But potentially, great class. I think there's several kids in this class that could have an opportunity to play early.
I mean, if you count transfers, you landed 2 4-stars,
Mm-hmm.
Will and Jermaine. How did those seeds get planted again now?
You know,
Here, and you have to sit out here, but what is the impact there?
Yeah, they're going to have tremendous impact. I mean, if you go back to that class, and again, I'll go on record, I look at the recruiting rankings, but I don't live and die by them. We live and die by our own evaluations, but at times it's nice to see what other people think of them. Keegan Kasu was the highest ranked MAC signee in state, and I think he was 21 or 22 on 24/7. Khalil and Jermaine are both in the top 15. Those things came about because we had relationships with them in the recruiting process. They had teammates that came here. We recruited those guys. They chose to go to Virginia Tech and Michigan respectively, and when they weren't comfortable, they felt like there was going to be another opportunity here, and we welcomed them in. And so, I'd say that that's not something you can really count on every year. Obviously it happened. We're elated to to bring them in the fold. They're both really good students, both good kids, and, you know, both, you know, very talented players. So, yeah, I mean, it's a nice plus.
You talked about Harrison Braswell, both obviously 3 stars, but then also Lewis and Scott. It seemed like the secondary was something you guys kind of put.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're trying to always, you know, get better. That secondary's young, going to be young next year. And I mean, we've got, you know, you look at, you know, the challenges. You're always looking at your roster. You know, where are you? Where do you need to improve? You know, you're trying to project, you know, 2 years, 3 years out, and where your current players are in their development, and you know, it's a never-ending puzzle that you're looking at. Okay, how many scholarships at one position versus another? You know, you have to account a little bit for attrition because it happens in every program. And you know, those players, you know, we go into it with quotas. So we start off, you know, we're going to look at our overall roster, who we're going to graduate next year, where are we, you know, where are we heavy, where maybe we deficient, and then if we're going to have 17 scholarships to fill, we set goals for each position, and you know, we've hit those, you know, at every turn. You know, the wide receiver position, if you count Khalil, we signed 3. Well, you know, we're using a lot more multiple wide receiver sets. You know, we graduated a lot in this class, and so, you know, we felt like we needed to get numbers at those positions.
You know, with losing Archie Collins, you guys as defensive back coach, that if you talked to any of it, was that a big part of the recruiting process with them, or?
You know, I mean, those guys, they were signed ahead of time.
Yeah.
You know, we're still in the process of trying to find Archie's replacement. You know, I think, you know, recruiting's right up there in terms of the importance of things that we do. I feel like as a head football coach, hiring staff might be the most important thing that I do. And so, you know, we're happy for Archie and the opportunity that he's been given. He did a great job here. He's definitely deserving of it. Now the challenge is to go out and find, you know, the next person to fill his shoes. You know, you talk to those, and that's why as a head coach, I think it's important to have relationships with not only the kids on your team, but obviously the kids that you're trying to entice to, you know, to join your team. You know, I make calls every week during the season to our offer guys and our committed guys because, you know, I want to have a relationship with those players coming in. You know, I want them to understand what they can count on from me, what I'm expecting from them, and you know, that's just dialogue that's ongoing. And so, you know, if you do lose someone from your staff, which, you know, we're not alone in that. You know, it happens across college football. I mean, Michigan's lost coaches. Michigan State has. You know, Eastern, Western have. I mean, it's just part of the process. You know, at least they feel comfortable with the other people that are still in your program. So it's a great question, and thanks for asking.
Are you ready to announce a new recruiting coordinator?
Not currently. You know, that's you know, and you know, quite honestly, one of the things that I'm probably going to do, you know, once we complete the staff, is I'm going to have a recruiting coordinator on both sides of the ball, one on offense and one on defense. You know, really, you know, Albert as our director of player personnel, Albert Karshnia is our primary recruiter. You know, he and his staff are doing a lot of the legwork on the front end in terms of identifying prospects, you know, communicating through the appropriate ways, mailings and that sort of thing, and then doing a lot of the evaluations on the front end, and then it goes to the area coach and the position coaches. So we've got a very detailed system in how we vet through, all of the prospects and then make decisions on who we're going to offer, and then how we, every prospect gets recruited by, essentially at minimum of 3 people. His area recruiter, his position coach, and then myself, and then a lot of times the coordinator as well. So, in short, Albert's role as the recruiting coordinator, Albert's kind of the chief guy that organizes everything.
If you had to pick one, out of the 17, who do you think would make the immediate impact?
I think one of those 2 wide receivers, just given the youth of our overall group, either Keontae or yeah, I'm sorry, Ty, one of those 2. I think, possibly Carlton Cleofat, a linebacker as well. I would say you want to really, you want to be playing with, juniors and seniors. When you get your program to, where you want to be playing with the, the 20, 21, 22-year-olds and not the 17 and 18-year-olds, across most of the positions. So.
George Pearson, obviously you talked about how he's just coming in, but with Tony being so young as well, where do you kind of see his role in the team to start out? I guess?
He'll be a freshman. I mean, he's gonna hopefully he's gonna redshirt. I think again, we'll have 4 on scholarship next year with Tony, Tommy Lazaro, Austin Herget, and then George will be the young one. You know what I mean? So that position in particular, I think guys need time. They you want them to have an opportunity to to grow and develop. But it's good to have depth at that position as well. It's important to have depth.
What's the latest on Aaron?
Can't comment.
You talked a little bit about a few of the athletes that you guys recruited, have experience playing basketball too. Is that something that you kind of look at in the recruitment?
Absolutely. I think the more opportunities a young man has to compete, the better off they are. You can't manufacture competition and game on the line, ball in your hand. Whether it's basketball, whether it's head-to-head in track, whether it's baseball. I think competition, and when you see guys compete, no matter what it is, I think that's a very, very valuable thing to learn.
Thanks, Coach.
Anyone else? Appreciate it. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.